it anyway. Okay, so I would like to use my camera and my microphone. I go, okay, I'm getting no blinking lights, not a one on Spreaker, which is one of the reasons, again, if I go to, let's go to global settings, not that that matters.
Do you see somebody in the Block Talk Radio queue?
Let's see. I do see yes I do.
Okay.
Yeah, caller. So hang tight.
Yeah.
We'll be right there. It's weird. Spreaker is not, who knows? Short of restarting my Mac. That's the only, you know what, that's it. I'd have to restart my Mac. And what do you think? How long does it take to restart a Mac?
2 minutes maybe.
All right,
Let's start a few minutes late. We're live on YouTube, so they can.
Yeah, the bad news is I'm going to lose my, for the person that's on Blog Talk Radio, we're going to lose that person.
Oh yeah, because you're running it there. Well, no, they'll stay in the queue when you sign back in. They'll just be there, right?
So hang tight on Blog Talk Radio. I bet that's going to end the show though. If so, just so you know, we had some problems, so call back in.
If we drop you, call back in.
If we drop you, call back in. Yeah, we'll see. Otherwise, just hang in the queue. I found the culprit. Hold on. Now let's go back. That weird USB Blog Talk Radio thing was still running in the background. So I bet now, because that's what I went to close, because I thought, I bet, I had started Mixler beforehand, and I thought, I wonder if this... Yeah, Mixler's freaking great. I thought, I wonder if this new Blog Talk Radio thing, takes over and says you can't use, only I can use the USB. So we'll see here. And if so, we will have learned yet another new piece of the puzzle. That's the piece of the puzzle.
That's why we do this.
All right, T.
Boom.
Oh, now I got to go back to I still need, I'll go to Blog Talk Radio on my PC.
Let's see. So is Spreaker working?
Spreaker will work in 2 seconds. I'm not going to, I guess I could set it off, whatever. I always update that one as well.
Let's see. I'm listening on that. I don't hear us over there yet.
Listen, we're live for 5 seconds now.
Oh, okay. Let me refresh though.
And let me go to my dashboard and see if we lost the caller. I hear something now.
Yeah, it's working. Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm a little loud, I think. Hold on, let me see. Let me check it out again on Spreaker. It's almost like you got to do pre-checks on all these. No, it's perfect. Just leave it. It's good.
Okay, so let me see here. If I go to episodes, if it killed my show. Can I go to that one? Survey says. It says I'm on the air, but I can't get back to my show.
On Blog Talk Radio?
Yeah, it's like, okay. Please, studio. I bet that would be it. Come on, just the response time this morning on Blog Talk Radio, not
a little slow, huh? Maybe they had their Christmas party last night too.
Yeah, that's it.
Little dancing.
There we go. That's okay. So
a bunch of old white guys dancing.
All right, cool. And our caller's still there. Awesome. All right. Well, let's actually start the show, shall we?
All right, let's do it.
All right. I'm going to kill all that intro. There we go.
Actually, I think it's kind of good that we expose a little bit of this behind the scenes piece, because it's part of the live process and we're figuring it out.
So ending in 9118. Thank you for holding. We'll be with you in just 2 seconds. Ask the Podcast Coach for December 13th, 2014.
Let's get ready to podcast.
Oh, it's Saturday morning. It is time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcasting questions answered live. Just go to askthepodcastcoach.com twitch.tv/live every Saturday morning, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. For those of you that are joining us live, we apologize for being a little late. We'll talk about this show has always been kind of fun. We always throw things at the wall live, which is always fun, and sometimes it's a train wreck, and sometimes it works perfect. And the good thing is I'm not alone. I'm always joined by my good buddy, Jim Collison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going?
Greetings and happy Saturday morning to you, Dave, and happy 12/13/14 today.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah, and just a few minutes ago, it was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 on the date. Not long ago, maybe about 20 minutes ago.
And I missed it.
Just say I'm a little bit of a time nerd. Sorry about that.
You need a T-shirt. Time nerd.
Time nerd.
So, but hey, before we make this person wait any longer, we do have a caller who's been waiting already for 7 minutes. So, ending in you're the only. Oh, here we go. Ending in 9118. I'm going to put you on the air. There we are. You're on with Dave and Jim. What's your name and what's your question?
In the morning, Dave. This is Fred Castaneda from Skills in Screencast and Podcast.com. How are you?
Much better now that we figured out what's going on. I appreciate you holding on. I don't know if you could hear us bumbling through. That's not working.
Yeah, everything. You're coming in, Lucky Chucky, loud and clear.
All right.
I had one question for you, and that is, I wanted to find out about your strategy, if you have one, of plans and strategies, how you combine your audio podcast and your videos, as well as your screencast. I know that you have behind the School of Podcasting and other membership locations, you probably do that, and maybe you can share with us how you do it, not share any confidential material, but just share with us what you do and how you combine your audio and video in a strategy for your business.
Well, this show is done via audio, but it's done via video. We have video for it. It's not primarily a video show. When I can, I use it, and then what I usually do is if there's something that's really super duper, makes no sense on an audio podcast, I will cut that out of the audio version. I don't want to waste my my listeners' time. So yeah, I use the video for that. I also then I usually download the video from YouTube and do a little bit of editing if I have the time, which often is not the case. But if I do have the time, I'll try to go in and add some little lower thirds and things like that. In terms of screencasting, that is the heart and soul of the School of Podcasting. I mean, last week we were talking about how to add an image to your sidebar, and we said that if you really wanted to know that step by step, I've got tutorials for that that'll walk you through the whole process. And then I occasionally will just do things on YouTube just for the fun of it, just to say hi and things like that. Or in some cases, I'll do a private video on YouTube to answer somebody's very specific question at the School of Podcasting. I'll do a screencast, upload it to YouTube, although now I'm starting to use Mediafire for that. And I'll send them a link so they can say, they're like, how do I do this? It's in this, or I have this plug-in or whatever, and I'll go that route for that. So that's primarily the use of audio, video, and screencasting.
Okay, and as far as Google Hangout on Air or any kind of webinar jam, you just see that as a vehicle for what you're doing like right now?
Yeah, I mean, I use it for Ask the Podcast Coach. I do it when we have somebody who wants to be on with us on the podcast review show. I use a thing now called Join.me to share screens if I'm doing like troubleshooting or if I'm doing one-on-one consulting. I used to use GoToWebinar for that. I recently switched to Join.me. But yeah, that's the main tools at this point. And then I use Camtasia to capture, to do any kind of editing and video. And then there's ScreenFlow, which I hope to get a little more up to date on the Mac side. In the last 2 weeks of the year I have off, so I have a lot of things I'm going to be diving into that I normally don't have time to get into.
Well, Steve has that tutorial.
Yep.
On ScreenFlow.
I've been through that.
I saw it.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's a great course. I love it. I just haven't had the time to, you always go with what you know. So when it came time to do something, I should have forced myself to use ScreenFlow, but I used Camtasia because, path of least resistance kind of thing.
Right. Last question happens to be: are you going to be doing any kind of telesummit? In other words, kind of virtual podcast.
In 2015 or just, I mean, I do a monthly
Yeah.
call with the School of Podcasting. We do that once a month. This month, we're going to do something different where I'm actually going to offer more or less one-on-one consulting for anybody at the School of Podcasting within reason. I'm not going to sit here and, spend 6 hours with you. But that's what we're probably going to do in December because we can't find a time when everybody's available. And then in 2015, I'll probably bring back some sort of, last year I called it Podcasting in 6 weeks. I have a course I'll probably bring back. I just did, when I started working on the School of Podcasting, I put that on the back burner. And then about the time I was going to bring it back, New Media Expo came on board. So sometime in 2015, I'll probably bring it back. I love that because I want to do a class with like 4 or 5 people, really small, and go super in-depth with those people to almost like one-on-one consulting, except it's not as expensive because you have 4 or 5 other people putting the bill.
Will that be advertised besides the School of Podcasting members? Will it be advertised the outside?
Oh, yeah, that will be for, it's basically, it's like Podcasting in 6 weeks, but yeah, it'll be on the School of Podcasting. It'll be, it's for people who don't have a podcast.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, the last item is: do you have an update on Aldello or your perspectives on Aldello? Have you played with it since the last time we talked? Because the December 31 time frame is coming, and that's the last of the 60 days to get a refund.
Oh, I already got my refund a long time ago. When if you listen to Libsyn Live or Libsyn the Feed, Libsyn Live had I can see her. Not Elsie. Oh, it's going to come to my... Anyway, I want to say Crystal, but that's not it. But anyway, one of the tech support people, there's a bug in, at least there was. Now, of course, you can always fix a bug. But where if you have multiple Libsyn shows, because you can have like on my Libsyn account, I have Ask the Podcast Coach, I have the School of Podcasting, I have Building a Better Dave, and a couple my other shows. I have a couple on Blueberry as well. But if you used Audello and you uploaded your feed, uploaded your audio, it randomly picked where your show went. So I could be uploading a Ask the Podcast Coach show, and it could put it on my Building a Better Dave show. And that's when I went, I don't even want to play with this at this point. It's that there's bugs, and then there's like, hey, you just shot me in the foot. And there were people, for that to really work and really get all the major stats that they offer, you had to run your feed through them. And I'm like, no, not happening. So, I just tell people, it's full of bugs. It's chock full of bugs, and bugs can be fixed. That's great. I wouldn't use it now though, and they have offered to, they've offered to allow me to kick the tires longer, if I want to, and I might pursue that just to keep on top of it. It's a great idea. I just right now I'm like, it's so not ready for prime time in my book.
Oh, okay. Have you used Ringer? Have you been able to get your hands on it?
On what?
Ringer, R-I-N-G-R.
Talked to Tim this week because I said, dude, people are talking about your show, and they are right now, and I don't quite get this, but they're waiting to be approved by Apple. I was not aware that this was an app. I thought it was a website thing, and they're hoping in January to launch. So.
Okay, sorry to take up too much of your time.
No.
Just wanted to say hi, and in the morning, Dave.
Absolutely, Fred. Thanks for calling in, buddy, and thanks for waiting. I know you're on hold for a while, so I appreciate that.
No, it's back in the day. That's what we want to say. Back in the day. I'm waiting for that to catch on. I think if I keep saying that enough, people will. Back in the day.
So
gotta get that going.
Yeah, but no. So it was, it was just a little. It was nice to hear from Tim. I was glad that he responded really quick, and I'm like, hey, people are kind of excited about your service. He's like, yeah, we're waiting for Apple to approve us, and I'm like, so that's where I was like, okay, because it used to be originally again, this was going to be a, it does a double ender in the cloud, for lack of a better phrase, and so it sounds cool, but it just, I'm not sure what the holdup was. I'm sure we'll find out once it launches or whatever, but. So
Had a challenge this week. Can I change the subject a little bit?
absolutely.
So I had a challenge this week. Actually, I've had it for the last year. Is as we've taken it at Gallup, as we've taken the podcasts live in a bunch of different places. You know, we come in from Singapore and Sydney, and from India. We have 3 offices in China, and of course that's not going to work there. We can't. They block, and I thought, well, maybe they don't block Google Plus. They just block Google itself, but they block all Google properties there. And so that, so you have to start asking yourself the question, what kind of service am I going to use, to get this done? And I could, we looked at the traditional GoToMeeting and the ReadyTalk and some of those other US-based ones. But I stumbled across this service called Zoom, Zoom.com, and in this case, if you go to Zoom.us, and they are like a Google Hangout equivalent, and are very easy to use. Their pricing plans are pretty reasonable in the sense that for $10 a month you can get access to pretty much unlimited everything from them. And so think of a Google Hangout, right? Think of Hangouts, but just pulled out of Google and made separate, made different. It's video conferencing solution is what it is. And they have all kinds of different plans that are out there, but some pretty good quality audio and video. We did some testing this week. One of the very first tests I did is I just sent a link to my contact in Shanghai and said, I didn't even say anything. I'm just like, hey, I'm testing this out. Click this link. Said nothing. 2 minutes later, boom, there she was. I was like, wow, you're here. Like it worked. I didn't have to call you on the phone and walk you through the, walk you through the setup. And to me, that's kind of the test of is it easy to use or not, is if you can send it to kind of a novice user and have them just pick up on it. And, layout's a little bit different. Main videos on the bottom with our smaller windows being up on top of that, but a very easy user interface, a little record button that is there. It doesn't broadcast, right? So this is the big difference. You're not going to broadcast like we are broadcasting live here on YouTube using it.
Right.
But it gives a really good recording that gives you both an audio only and a video file when you're done, which I thought was really, really cool. So you hit record, boom, it says, hey, I'm processing, and then locally it drops that down. It drops all that stuff to a local file for you, and it's ready in a couple minutes. My calls aren't very long, and I haven't tested it very long, but it gives you both audio, and here's what's cool, it records the chat for you as well. So if you had chat going on, you get a little text file that has all the chat in it. And I thought for $10 per host, right, to get it with the free version, you get almost everything with the exception of you only get 40-minute meetings, right? How did they pick 40? I don't know. It's 40 minutes, right? In most cases, right, that's going to work for you to try something out. If you have an hour-long podcast, that's not going to work. But the $10 a month version allows up to 25 participants to join you, so you can get 25 in a call. This is something we've been trying to do with online learning at Gallup too. Is how do I get 20 or 25 participants in the same room all at the same time? We still have to test it out. This is like I just tried it. I just found it this week and did some testing with it. Some of the listeners here, Andy Sokolovich and such, joined me for that call when we did it. But it was very, very cool. So Zoom.com, if you're looking for maybe an alternative or something along those lines, that might be a cool little service to look at.
Yeah, the chat room, Jeff Bundy says that computerstoknow.com, which of course is our buddy Mike Phillips, lots of accolades about that service on a podcast he listens to every Sunday.
About Zoom?
About Zoom. So
yeah, it can be. Daniel says Zoom is more of a GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar replacement. He kind of asked that question, and yeah, it's kind of designed around conferencing. But the thing I liked about it is you and I could jump on it if we weren't going to broadcast this, right? You and I could jump on it, and I could hit the record button, and I could record that video and audio podcast, so to speak, and it would be a great way for folks to collaborate. And I haven't tested the audio or video quality yet, right? At this point, I don't have any stats on it at this point, but not bad. Yeah, something worth looking at if you're a podcaster. At least add it to your quiver.
Quiver, word of the day. Excellent. Hey, entering in 1154. What's your name and what's your question? You're on with Dave and Jim.
Hey, this is John Wilkerson from the Wired Homeschool, and the question I have is, I don't really have necessarily a question about podcasting, but, well, yeah, I do actually, but it's more about iTunes. You know, one of the things that really bugs me about iTunes is the fact that their directory is so stinking out of date.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I go on there and you search for a podcast, and there's people who haven't podcasted since like 2007, you know, and they're still listed in the directory. And do you think there's any way possible that we as podcasters could get together and say to iTunes, come on, clean up the directory? Because, you know, I'm not really that concerned about where I rank in iTunes. But what I am concerned about is that people go into iTunes, they find a podcast that's 4 or 5 years old, and it sounds like crap because they recorded it on Blog Talk Radio 5 years ago, and then they go, oh, this podcasting is not for me.
Yeah, the good news is iTunes has done a lot for podcasting. The bad news is, you know, iTunes, you know, what was I watching the other day? And they were talking about how Odeo, which was started by the guy who started Twitter, when iTunes came on board, they went, never mind, Apple's going to take over. So it did kind of, I think, discourage some stuff. The bad news is if their feed works, they're not going to get it out. That's what I've heard. That the one way to get kicked out of iTunes is if your feed stops working. There are other things with, you know, F-bombs and things like that, but I don't know. You know, I guess we could mount a march and go to
iTunes directorysucks.com is available, actually, so we could start a movement around that. It's just $12.99 on Hover if you want to go. Somebody wants to go out and buy it and set it up.
Yeah.
I've actually found some feeds that are completely blank and they're still listed in iTunes.
Well, what you can do is,
so, you know,
when you're there,
and I report it. You know, what I do is I report it. You know, while I'm there, and I contact some other people who are kind of also in the homeschooling space, and I say, look, because their podcasts aren't even showing up in, you know, like in the top 200 list, because there's all these other podcasts in there that aren't producing, and I say, look, get into iTunes and submit a complaint saying this thing's out of date, remove it from your listing, and, you know, or it's blank, or, you know, whatever the case is. And, you know, we're not seeing any movement, but that's kind of one of my biggest pet peeves about that I've had with iTunes since I started all this back in 2005 is it's never up to date. You know, they just, like you said, if the feed works, they keep it there.
Yeah.
And, you know, at least if they put like an inactive tag on it so you would know when you saw it on the listing and it was kind of removed from the rankings. Yeah.
When would you deem something inactive? Because there are a lot of shows that are about TV shows or, you know, baseball that's, you know, football is an active, you know, what, 40 weeks out of the year? You know, it's like.
Yeah, I would think if you haven't podcast in a year, your podcast is inactive. You know, I think a year is a good kind of a good solid, because that gets you around to all the seasonal things.
Yeah. Because the thing that's really
that gives people time to
the thing that really makes people crazy is, especially the older shows, you know, back in the day didn't have a whole lot of competition, so they got a huge number of downloads. Right. And so I think total number of downloads plays into that mysterious, you know, what does Apple use to you know, rank people? And so they're like, wait a minute, this, you know. There's a lot of I have a friend of mine, Marcus Couch, does WP plugins A to Z, and he for years was getting beat by WordPress podcasts that hadn't put out episodes in years. And he's like, so he just kept begging, please give us reviews, please give us reviews, and you know, it does kind of stink. Yeah, there is. Yeah,
you know, it's kind of one of the things. If you're going to do rankings, I think that whether or not the show is active should kind of factor into it as well. And I know that, you know, our good buddy Cliff Ravenscraft doesn't think so, because he's got lots of podcasts out there that are just kind of sitting and still ranking high. But, you know, to me, I understand you got a bunch of downloads 3 or 4 years ago, but you're not active. Your content, especially if it's for a TV show, is probably, it's not as relevant now as it was then. And it's just, it's one of those things where if I started a podcast directory,
right.
Well, you know, that would be one of the things where I drop you off. You know, a year you're inactive. Bye. You go on the injured reserve list or something.
Yeah, I think you're doing everything you can, but in the end, I'm sure it's a low priority. I mean, I would just think that has nothing to do with money. Has nothing to do. It has a lot to do with making their directory better. But right now, you know, Daniel J. Lewis in the chat room from the audacitytopodcast.com says there is a complete tag, but that needs to come from the person that did the show, and they haven't made a podcast in 3 years,
right.
So they don't. So it just adds it to the. See, I should have played this at the beginning of the show.
And now it's time for a pet peeve.
See, that would have been cool. It's a pet peeve.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, anything else we can help you with?
No, that was it. I just wanted to kind of, hear what you guys had to say. I don't generally get to listen on Saturday mornings because with 6 kids in the house, it's usually, going crazy around here.
Well, we'll have to, we'll have to reschedule our meeting. I know we were going to talk this week, but we'll have to reschedule that. And because when I heard he had 6 kids in the house, I'm like, I need to talk to you about that. How do you do that? So, but
very carefully. That's how you do that.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
The same way you do.
Yeah. Awesome. Very carefully. Yeah. Awesome. Well, John, thanks so much for calling in, buddy.
Thanks, John.
Take
care.
You
bet. Bye-bye.
Have a good Saturday.
Yeah, there were a lot of services. Somebody said, I wish Yahoo would get into podcasting. I go, they did in 2005. And then iTunes came in, they went, never mind. But yeah, there used to be a Yahoo podcast directory. So. Well,
you get into that, the definition area of when do we determine somebody's inactive, and how do we make that, and that gets sticky, right? And he mentions like Cliff. I'm kind of in the same boat. I got some podcasts that are out there that are evergreen, that are as good today as they were back then. Their quality, the video or the audio quality, might not be as great. Speaking of that, I went back and watched some video from when Google Hangouts first went live. Nice. So we just did show 195 this week, and so this is back on 78, right? When Google Hangouts was just coming out, and holy moly, have they come a long way. You're like, wow, I can't believe we thought this was good, And then Mike Howard and I, we've been talking a lot about, he's been kind of trying to move on as much as he can onto Skype, because Skype audio and video has been so good lately. And yet in the last 2 weeks in Google Hangouts, I think they've completed their upgrades, because I have just had the best luck both at work and here. I mean, Dave, our connection is good. I think our sound is good. We're not having you're very little video buffering. Now, I'm not changing the window around very much, so your video is getting a chance to kind of stay buffered to me. But the quality of Google Hangouts in the last couple weeks has been a lot better than it is than it's been in the past. And Skype still is I think Skype is still the winner when we talk about audio. We're doing, I think we're still in voice mode, and so the audio is not as good in voice as it is in studio. It gets better, but it's pretty good for free, right? It's pretty good.
And I have my bandwidth turned down, so I'm not in Super HD. I do know this. I just know all morning I'm like, why is my forehead so shiny? I need to fix this. It's because
we get to see Dave's belly live.
There you go. You have these little, baby stands. I forget, this is Cowboy something, and
it's Cowboy Studios.
I need to make the feet a little wider because it keeps tipping over. And I looked up and it's like, 1.5 feet from my forehead. I'm like, why am I shiny? I'm like, come on, what's going on? So, but hey, I thought I would talk. I actually just wrote an article for Pottertainment magazine, and I guess I made my own bed in this. I've turned it into what do you think about these guys on podcast hosting? And I had somebody ask me, and in this case, the media host is free. And so the question becomes, what do you think of free media hosting? And I'm like, well, I usually start my stopwatch and go, let's see how long it takes for them to go out of business. Now, on the other hand, bandwidth has come down a lot, This one is called Lover Eno. Or Love Reno. Loverino. You have to request a whatever access to it at this point. And the whole thing is with free hosting, the idea is they pay for the media hosting with advertising. And they say straight up that you don't get any cut of it. Zero. You get free hosting. And I thought about this. I'm like, well, okay, so what do they need? They need listeners and lots of them, basically. And I'm like, okay, so the people that jump on this are, in many cases, new podcasters who don't have listeners yet. And if you actually start a podcast there and get popular, so now you got 1,000 downloads an episode, now you don't need them for advertising. You might be able to get your own. And so what do? You go to Libsyn or Blueberry. And so I was like, I don't think this is going to work. It's been tried a couple times. Podshow, it's been tried by Podango. There's a couple other ones. But I don't know. To me, I'm like, I went back and thought about it. I'm like, I spend $1.80. For a while, I was drinking 2 20-ounce Mountain Dews a day. And they were $1.50, actually, if I bought them in the one place. So it's $3 20 times a day. That's $60 in Mountain Dew. And I went, you can't afford, I mean, I do the Jillian Michaels podcast. It's a short, 10-minute podcast. It used to be weekly. Now it's whenever I feel like it. But when it was weekly. It was $15.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, and you don't have to split. Podango, back in the day, we were like, oh, this is awesome. They're going to give 70% of all the income to the content creator. Well, okay, that didn't last very long because they're gone. And they gave you about a week and a half to move. So,
Dave, when you dropped when you went full HD, you got jittery, and I mean, I can still hear you, but your video got weird on me.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm
like you were
close a couple. I found this with. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say just click it back down a notch. It was a lot better when we were not pushing full.
I didn't change it. That's the part that's weird.
Oh, yeah.
And now things are just going weird. I need to check into this because one of the problems with Google Chrome is it does gobble up your memory.
It does. It's a big pig.
And we talked about Computer Tutor Florida last week, and yeah, because I'm freezing up. I'm doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
That's not too bad on this side.
I hate to do it, but I'm gonna close the chat room.
Yeah, you must have some PC stuff going on here.
I'm not using.
Don't go away, Dave. Don't lose. Don't drop. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, good.
Hold on.
Yeah, you're all frozen up on my side.
I'm still here.
Now you're back. Okay. Yeah, you just froze up. I was having bad nightmares of the show from a couple weeks ago when at the very end we just lost you.
Yeah, Scott Johnson from Computer Tutor Florida. I haven't tried it yet. It's called OneTab. That somehow lets you have multiple tabs in one tab. I haven't tried it yet. But in the process, it's supposed to free up a lot of your memory because that's what happens is that all Saturday morning, as we're trying stuff like I went over to zoom.us, well, there's another tab and another tab. And what happens is by the end of the show, even though I'm closing these tabs, a lot of times Google doesn't give you the memory back, at least not in my case. And it gets a little weird. And so, I'm tempted to try this. And it might have been one dash tab, but...
You know what's ironic is that whenever I have problems with Hangouts in Chrome, I just have the users switch over to IE, and it almost always fixes it.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Explorer, I remember that.
Yeah, a little trick. It almost works better, IE, than Chrome. They've been making a lot of changes to Chrome to embed the Google Talk plugin into the browser, so you don't have to install that anymore. That's always been a requirement to use Google Hangouts is you had to have the plugin installed. And they're trying to work that out. I think that's been a little harder than they thought it would be, and I don't think it's worked as well as they've wanted it to. It takes up massive CPU utilization as well as a lot of memory that you were talking about on the computers. But in IE, it seems to work pretty well. So it's crazy. Yeah. So you can always try that with if you're using Google Hangouts and you're having problems and they're in Chrome. I haven't had a lot of luck with Firefox. That's been the one thing. It's not like it's just another browser that helps. It's IE specifically. It's the newest version of IE on Windows desktop that I'm referring to. Seems to work really well.
We should mention that if you want to call in, we have open phone lines. The number is 347-850-8007. That's 347-850-8007. And we will answer your questions. We talk about it's always interesting because the show kind of goes in 8 billion different directions, and that's fine because really you drive it. So if we're talking about topic A and you're like, oh, I don't want to call in because they're talking about iTunes or whatever. No, feel free to call in with whatever you want, and if you have a pet peeve, we can do that too, and everything else. So again, it's 347-850-8007. Should probably mention I always forget to do this. If you'd like to join the School of Podcasting, I always usually throw in one plug. Use the coupon code ASK20 and get $20 off your first month. And I was going to talk about MySpeed. I forget what if you go to AskThePodcastCoach.com, I found out something that's awesome. I talked about MySpeed. That's the thing that speeds up videos. It speeds up Netflix now. And you want to talk about binge watching. Oh, my. It's like I'm watching stuff at 2x and 2.5x. And there's I wonder if this will ever come to podcasting. There's a new style of entertainment called What the Heck Am I Watching? Where you watch the next episode because you're like going, what the heck is that? And it's weird because my video has frozen up on this side. Okay, but I'm back now. Yeah. If you think about it, like the show Lost was just like every week you're like, what? Wait, if the thing is the what? And I started watching the American Horror Story on Netflix, and it was just so bizarre. It's like a house is haunted, but the person is old, but they're young, and you're really going. It's this weird confusion equals entertainment thing that I'm like, I don't think that would work in audio. Every week you tune in to find out what the heck is that guy talking about.
Sarah watches my wife. She watches Fallon in his monologue. She watches in 2 times. Yeah. And so I'll go in there and he's and it's just hilarious. It's almost as fun to watch it at that speed because it's that speed than it is to watch it kind of in real time. And then when they get the guests on, she'll spin that down to we use Windows Media Center for that, and she'll spin that down to normal speed. But it's funny when I walk out there and she's got Jimmy Fallon double speed.
Yeah, it is. That's the one thing that when I was listening to a podcast last week, I forget who they were talking with, and one of the reasons, if we go like him or not, I was listening to an interview of Barbara Walters by Howard Stern, and as much as Howard's about lesbian and fart jokes and whatever, when that guy does an interview, it's a good interview. I learned so much stuff about Barbara Walters that I'd never heard of, and all sorts of stuff, and I think that's one of the really cool things about podcasting is the fact that it's not, because I love Jimmy Fallon. I think he's funny. But, the other night he had Mark Wahlberg on. They were on for like 3 minutes, and then they played some game where they slapped each other with big giant hands. And I'm like, I think I would have rather learned more about the movie to let me figure out if I want to go see it.
Yeah, no, they're not there to promote. They're not there to promote the movie. I mean, I think they've figured out that doesn't really do much anyway, or what, but they just jump on and they've got funny stuff that they do. I really like, for the comedy value, you're not going to get an interview from Fallon.
Well, the interesting thing is, who was I listening to? Oh, man, it might have been Mark Maron. No, it was Barry Katz, Industry Standard. Really, if you're into entertainment, the behind the scenes of entertainment, then they were talking about the whole Jay Leno, David Letterman thing, and they said, how are you going to beat Letterman to Leno? And he says, with comedy, which is a polite thing to say. We're going to be funny, but in the end, that's what they did. They, came out and had really good jokes and nailed the monologue. They didn't quite go for the quirky, stupid pet tricks kind of stuff. I'm a huge Letterman fan, by the way, but when looking back, I'm like, he kind of, they came up with a bunch of bits and, people on the street kind of stuff, and that wasn't quite so, Letterman used to be out there back in the, when he first was on NBC and that whole 9 years, but I thought it was funny. It's like, we're going to beat him with comedy. I'm like, So, am I coming across weird?
Well, for me anyways, I don't know what they're seeing out there. You're frozen for me. I hear your audio.
So weird.
It is kind of weird.
I just called I would love to be able to watch like how busy my processor is right now, and
now you're back. You were out for me for a second. I think I'm getting a different result than people who are watching it live are. I might be the one. I don't know.
Well, the fun thing is I'm not touching a thing. I mean, I'm literally like, okay. It just every now and then things go kind of bonkers.
Well, on your Windows box, you can go down to the task bar and right-click and go to Task Manager. And that will Are you running Windows 7 or Windows 8?
7.
So so you go down, Start Task Manager.
Start Task Manager.
And then you're going to want to go to that Performance tab, and that's going to kind of give you some idea of what you'll have. If you have a quad-core processor, it'll show 4 different boxes of your CPU, and then a combined CPU utilization. It's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty close. And then how much memory you're using. So, if you're out of memory, that's on a Windows PC, man, you can't put enough memory in there. That's especially if you're running Chrome. That can be those Chrome processors can be a hogs.
Well, I was sitting there thinking, I'll have to look and see how much can this PC handle, and just stack it full of, because it's a couple years old. I'm not sure how much RAM I have in it, but obviously I could use a little more, which is weird. It says my CPU usage is 30%. My memory is I'm using 5 gigs. I think I have 8. Yeah, I could use definitely some. I have 8 gigs. Man, how old is that of memory? And I have 33 gigs cached. I have 2.5 gigs available. But if I go under processes, that's always fun. Oh yeah, it's just nothing but Chrome.
Yeah.
It's absolute Chrome.
I've got a Chrome, my Chrome tabs that are open now on Windows 7. I mean, each one of them, the biggest one's taking 250 meg by itself.
Yeah, that's what I have.
And this one's not even running any video or any audio. I wonder what that's running here on the.
I wish it would let you see what you're what's doing what, but yeah, I have nothing. I mean, if I sort these by name, I probably have easy 9 Chrome things running, and some of them are like a LastPass plugin or all those add-ins that you add in. It seems like there are times when I'll start killing them, and like one of them is Evernote that runs in Chrome, and I'm like, well, if it's gonna chew up memory, I use that once a week if I'm lucky. I can just log back into Evernote and not use that. So, but
I found, Dave, it's really important as a podcaster. Your equipment matters, and when I work with people who are podcasting, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier about doing podcasting on the cheap. And it never pays to do it on the cheap. You get what you pay for, and so having great equipment. I upgraded the studio equipment here to just about the fastest stuff I could get my hands on, just for that reason. I spend quite a bit on my internet connection to make sure I've got good up and down speeds. I think I'm 60 down and 15 up or something like that, and I'm pushing about 4 up right now just with this video hangout. And so if you're on a plan where you're 2 or 3 or 4, oh boy, video is going to be tough if you're going to try and do it this way. But you really gotta, the more you throw at it, the better, and the better quality that you'll have, and I think the better experience you have. I am on the Windows 8 box that I'm running this. Windows 8's got a little bit better of a task manager, and so I can see specifically which tab is running the video and how much bandwidth I'm pushing out of that. And so the video window by itself, that's just running Chrome, it's about 173 megs worth of memory that it's taking, and it's pushing about between 4.0 and MEPS of bandwidth up to it. That's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, that's a big. We're pushing a lot of video here. If I just, for example, take it and drop if I go into the Hangout and drop. Right now I'm on full audio HD. If I drop that down one to medium, my video content will get not quite as nice. But now that's dropped down to a nice 2.0. So half of the kind of just by taking it off auto HD, I have cut my bandwidth need in half. I wonder if that'll solve anything. We'll see here if that solves anything on your end.
No,
but
I think it's on my end. I think it's the fact that I had a bunch of tabs open, I closed them, and Chrome didn't give me back my memory. My screen's frozen. Now I'm back. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it takes, so since you're the broadcaster, what doesn't matter how good a quality I have, you're hearing me kind of through Dave's connection, and so it's one of those kinds of things where if you're having problems, it's going to sound like I'm having problems too, or the whole thing is having problems. It's the tough stuff of live for sure.
What was weird? That was really weird when you were talking about that. I was going to tell you to please say Godzilla. Because for a while, your mouth and your audio were out of sync, and then by the time you got done, it caught up. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah. Which it didn't sound like the pitch probably changed. So it's like, how did that work? How did I catch up with, how can you get out of sync and then get back in sync and not make it sound, there's some skipping and some stuff in there. So audio compression, certainly Hangouts, they're free. Is it the absolute best quality play if you're using Hangouts? No. Is it the absolute easiest play for doing podcasting? I think it is in the mainstream, right? I mean, if you're just because you just get two people together and click record, and boom, you're in and done, and we've got some folks who like really good quality audio, and the audio is not great on this on Hangouts, but it's really good. It's not going to matter. I did a bunch of recordings this week of testimonials from folks, and I was calling them. They were on their laptop using their laptop microphone or the webcam microphone, right? It doesn't matter what the connection is going to be at that point. It's going to sound crappy, right? So having whatever I chose to use for that wouldn't have mattered because their audio was going to suck anyways. But that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to get these testimonies recorded.
Well, that's cool. That's an easy way to do it. Just fire up your computer and chat away. Yeah, I actually.
Go ahead.
I tried to open up another. I was going to try to go back to the chat because I have no idea. I was like, I need to go back to Chatwing. I can't monitor with the chat. So chat room, if you're saying things to me, I'm not going to see them today. So Jim, you're on chat duty today.
Yeah, not a lot going on chat. Not a lot.
I started to, and then it was like my video froze. I'm like, nope, don't do it. Not worth it.
So what do you have your camera settings at now? If you go up to the bandwidth meter in Google Plus.
I think I have it set to, let me click on it, which of course is making my screen freeze up. I have it one notch down. I'm at medium.
You're at medium. Yeah, typically medium fixes things. You must be having some other.
This morning I came in, here's another, I had to, it's like a Saturday tradition that I really wish would stop. I log in, check my email to have somebody say, Dave, there's a problem with the School of Podcasting. And this week it was I need to email him when I get done, the Simple Podcast Press plugin, the one that has all the cool subscribe buttons and that whole 9 yards. Yeah, it really, well, I'll put it this way. I went in and said, quit using the Simple Podcast player and please go back to using PowerPress, and all my formatting issues went away. Because it was weird. It was like, first of all, my background was blue. There's nothing more fun than trying to read black text on a blue background. And it was just weird. My sidebar was at things got really bizarre. And I'm like, that's weird. And so the first thing I did was I disabled my last post, because a lot of times you've done something in your last post that you did some sort of weird, funky HTML, and it corked the whole thing. So I disabled that. And this is the other problem. I hate caching programs. I understand what they do. Daniel just did a thing about speeding up your website. But right now, I can almost guarantee you, if you go to schoolofpodcasting.com, the top one is about protected RSS feeds, and I believe that's now labeled as a draft, but the cache will not update that's not on. And I went in, I deleted a bunch of files on the back end. I really hate caching. They just create headaches, and I'm like, ugh. So that's what I get to do when I get done here is go back and see what's going on. I mean, I'm glad I got the formatting done, and I'll tweak it. But I am starting to come to the senses of, if you really don't need it. In fact, Daniel talked about this on his last episode. If you really don't need it, get the plugin out of there. You know, it's like, do I really? You know, it's like, you know, I like that plugin. It's cool. I know PowerPress is coming out with some subscribe buttons and things like that. But I was like, do I really need that one? Because I think I looked in, I have 21 plugins running, and I was like, what the heck am I doing with all these things?
Yeah, I keep it to a minimum. If I'm not using them, they're gone. I deactivate and delete. That's the easiest way to get it done. Hey, let's try an experiment real quick. Let's switch over to studio mode.
All right.
And I'm going to watch my resource utilization piece here, and we'll see if. So we're going from voice to studio. It probably will get quieter.
Well, of course, I clicked on voice, and my screen is frozen up. There we go. All right.
It'll switch over.
Yeah. It sounds so much better.
So
here we go. Studio. Save. I mean, I can hear like. Now we can.
Yeah. See the difference. Yeah, you can. It really picks up a lot more.
I'm trying to click on save, and it's doing nothing.
You're frozen out completely. I think you have a resource problem, Dave. This may be the end of the show.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So
Although I'm hearing myself back. Why would that have changed? All we did was click Studio.
Yeah, you are. Wait a minute.
But see, Studio's got this. Oh, it's gone now.
There you go.
Studio's got this weird hiss in the background, which I don't like. You know, it's this.
It sounds like somebody had a noise gate and they took it off, and it's not like, you know, it's just the S's and the T's are clearer now, but in terms of, it sounds like you way down the hall you have a fan. Like I hear this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear it on your side too, so it's not necessarily me, but you get a little bit better audio quality. It did not change the amount of bandwidth I was using at all, so it's not like it's. Eileen's saying there's an echo. So Daniel says studio mode's a lot higher quality, although Daniel, I'm not seeing the reflection and quality on in my bandwidth, so it's not like it's pushing more audio up to you. It's not like the voice mode was pushing any less. The amount of bandwidth I'm using should have, if it's better quality, it should have gone up. I should have started using more, I would think. So.
And Eileen says there's an echo?
Well, I think they're behind us 30 seconds, so I think she was hearing when I was echoing. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a little bit better. But that hiss behind the scenes, and it gets quieter because it's weird. You know, you change over and then the volume goes down, and so you have to turn everything up. And you can't, if you're going to use studio mode in Hangouts, everybody has to be on it. You can't have one person on voice and the other on studio because their volume differences will be different. Typically, Google would level that out, but it doesn't when you do it that way. So
the other thing you'd have to make sure of is, I would think you'd have to watch everybody's levels more, because that compression isn't going to knock you down now. So you have to make sure, you know, that you're wherever you're at, and make sure you're not going to blast me out. So we actually have a caller as we.
Bring him in.
Awesome. Let me hit.
Seems like your resourcing issues are over.
Yeah, well, I've closed. The only thing I've open is you and Blog Talk Radio's interface. Ending in 7825, you're on with Dave and Jim. What's your name and what's your question?
Hey, it's Michael Ray. How you doing?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Oh, pretty good. I finally got where I can get a signal.
Excellent.
But I have a question about the lavalier mic. I've seen some that are like the RODEs, and I've seen Audio Technicas. What's kind of a good, reasonable price clip-on type mic?
I hear a lot about the Rode. Now, there's two Rode ones. One you need to stay away from, and one's like the, I can't think of the name. This is where I need my chat room. One's like the something Pro, and one is not Pro, and the one that's not Pro is caca poo poo.
Right.
I've used, let me pull it out from behind me. You're never going to get like a high PR 40 sound from, a lav. I mean, there's some good lavs.
Right.
Because this one's like $20. It's the Audio Technica ATR 3350. Now, it requires a little watch battery. And I've used it. It's okay. It doesn't give you a ton of signal, even with the watch battery. But I've used it with some stuff where I'll do video and I don't want to have the big honking mic in my face, and I'll clip it on. And it sounds okay. Daniel in the chat room might have some. I know he's playing.
They're saying the Smart Lav Plus.
Smart Lav Plus, that's it. Yeah, there's Smart Lav, which I heard
wasn't... one to get?
Well, I heard there was Smart Lav, which I heard wasn't very good, but you got to go to the Smart Lav Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
I've heard. Now, is that the one that only? Because then you have to be careful, because some of them only work with iPhones. Like they have the little 3-ring tip thing,
right.
And then some of them, it's kind of tricky. But I've heard.
Yeah, when I was looking, I saw that you're right. It had that like 3-ring thing on there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that would work. Because if you want to plug it into, because I want to run 2 of them, do that little live studio thing I got, when I'm doing something portable, and that way I don't have to worry about, because sometimes kids, they'll take their mouth away, they'll go this and that, but this way I can maybe kind of at least get a consistent level,
Yeah, I mean, because what I do, the ATR one here has just your typical, single microphone plug-in. And I just plugged it in to where it had a 1/4 inch, and then I would plug that into a channel, and then you could go with that rate. And it's not wireless, but it's got like, I don't know, 15 feet of cable on the thing, so that was kind of nice about it. Jim, what are they saying in the chat room?
Eileen has said the Plus works with the Android. Twit Guy says he thinks the best one is the Sanken, Sanken, costs $11D. He's not big on lavs, but Daniel says the Mic J044, the Mic MIC capital J 044 lavalier.
From who?
Mike J, I guess, is the. Here, I'll click on his link. Oops, that's.
Well, I used to use Giant Squid Audio back in the day. They made some pretty cool lavs.
Yeah, Pro Lavalier lapel microphone, JK. And then the model is Mic-J044. Oh, it's a Sennheiser. Sorry, it's a Sennheiser mic. Yeah.
Well, that would explain that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're asking a lavalier mic to do a lot, right? I mean, this is the problem with the lav is you've got a little tiny microphone that you're asking it to do a lot. So, you need to set your expectations accordingly. You're not going to get great quality sound oftentimes. Excuse me, out of a lavalier. They are what they are. They have their use. They have their place in what we're doing, but it's typically not the best sound.
Yeah, I used
and I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I
just don't want it to sound like remember the old Mr. Microphone?
Oh yeah. Or that little stick mic. Yeah, the little stick mic you would get with your laptop or whatever.
Right.
It's right. You know what? I made a mistake, Dave. So that lapel is for the Sennheiser wireless trans. Wow. Daniel put a link in there. It confused me. Sorry about that, guys. Just keep going.
But yeah, it's. You might try. Ask Uncle Google and see if there are, any places where you can hear examples of those. Which even that is kind of weird because you always wonder who is giving the sample and do they boost it through a bunch of EQ and stuff to go here, this is awesome, and please use my affiliate link.
Right, I heard somebody on because I think Ray Ortega was doing something. So I kind of looked around a little bit, and I saw a guy on YouTube, and he's saying, yeah, this don't sound bad and all this. I use it with my video, and I'm thinking, well, is there a guy behind the microphone, cranking that handle, Oh, keep going, nothing to see here. I don't know. So,
yeah, I mean, you will achieve listenable audio, I guess, is a way of saying, depending on the lavalier. I've yet to hear one I'm like, wow, this is, this sounds just as good as any mic, but it's, because
right.
what you're not going to pick up is, you're not going to pick up as much bass, maybe, which is fine. There's one podcast who will remain nameless right now that just, when it comes on, it just rattles my teeth. They've boosted the bottom end so much. But it picks up the human voice, so it's not going to be super duper clear, and it's not going to be super duper bassy, but it'll sound better than a phone.
Well, seeing that, I had heard a podcast on one guy doing some stuff, and then when I heard him, because I listen to all kind. I got my phone, I got the iPad, I got everything loaded up, just because I'm 11 hours on my butt, and I got listening to something, which I listened to your recommendation on Kate's Take. Mm-hmm. I like that. I like her voice. Her voice is nice and even, and it's just the whole audio is just nice and even, and I really like listening to her. But when you got kids squirming around, I realize I'm not going to get a real studio quality, but at least if I can get a consistent audio, because trying to process something that's up and down, it gets.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You're trying to get the right recording in, so you have to do a lot of post production later, and now I got to levelate everything and adjust the volume and compress it and all that other stuff. You can kind of get it recorded right.
And I use that levelator thing, and that thing seemed like that works pretty good. I don't know if it's going to stay around or not.
Yeah, it's not under development, so eventually, there will be an operating system that it doesn't work with. That's going to be the problem, which you can always go over to Auphonic, and depending on how much you're doing, most of that is free. Levelator is good if things were just a little different. The problem you run into is if you sounded great and your guest sounded horrible. Well, it would boost their volume up, but it would also boost the hiss, and it would just, you had this weird kind of ocean effect where they would talk and be like, whoosh, and then they would talk and you would hear them, and when they quit, you'd hear, because it was like turning back down the volume. It was the most bizarre, and people were like, are you standing near the ocean? No, they were on their cell phone, and it was a bad reception or something like that. It was just horrible. So awesome.
Yeah. But, well, I if anybody in the like I say, had any more suggestions on that, however you do it, but I'm thinking Smart Labs, them RODEs, they seem like they was pretty good, about $60 or so. But like you say, if it has that 3 ring on there, I don't know how it's going to work with something else,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How old are your kids?
Oh, I got 10 to 28, but I got when I was listening to you earlier when I caught you, one guy had like six kids at home.
Yeah, that was.
I'm 50 something, and I got a 10-year-old, I got an 11-year-old, and I got a 14-year-old. And the 14-year-old, he does not know the meaning of stop eating. Oh my goodness,
yeah.
That kid.
The reason I say that is when you talk $60 for a microphone, I'm like, ooh, man, that's an ATR 2100, and you just increase the sound of your audio, and all you got to do is teach them how to stay in front of the mic.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I went on. Matter of fact, I just got on your affiliate link there and got some QU2s,
Mm-hmm.
And
thank you.
And I got some of that stuff in there, and I got some. I got boom arms. So I can that helps them to be more consistent. And I ordered some of those stands. You them little stands. They're like $12 or $13 you had on that thing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see if I can maybe, if that boom arm doesn't work, I can maybe when I go someplace remote or whatever, I can stack it to where that microphone is right in front of their face or like to the side there, and then that way, the lavalier mics, which I don't think they're going to sound that good either, but at least I can get something consistent, because, there's a difference between Polk Audio speakers and Sears speakers. There's just a big difference, so, and I know you got to pay to play, so,
yeah,
and I'm willing to play. Hey, I just got to make sure that whatever, and what I told my kids, I said, when we do this thing, we got to make sure you got your headphones in and all this, because there comes a moment, and one of those moments was a long time ago. You guys had the Podcasters Roundtable, and Ray Ortega was talking about who's that guy with the big long stick mic in the game show? He said, "Oh, he did. He died or something."
Bob Barker.
Yeah, Bob Barker. Remember to neuter your pets, and then you got on there and you said, "He died." You know, that was so funny. But if you got such crappy microphones, you miss a good moment. You know, and I'll tell you what, I replayed that thing 4 or 5 times going down the road. It was so funny. He was sitting there saying that, and you said, "Wait a minute, died?" And then the other one was Charles McFadden and that porn star thing. That was funny too. But anyway, Ginger Lynn, I think it was. But
yes.
And I learned that long time ago in the photography thing. If you don't get the best quality you can possibly get, you'll miss that picture. You know, you've had in Austin, Austria somewhere that you'll never get back again. That's why I'm trying to make it as good as possible, you know, without killing myself. But them little mic stands, I think, may do the trick. But if it doesn't, then I'm looking for lavaliers. You know, we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna try the mic stands first. But
okay, you know, yeah, I would try that first and go from there. So awesome.
Well, I really enjoy the show. I try to listen. I work every Saturday, so I kind of catch your show once I get back into Illinois. Then I can get the signal again. But because I always lose a signal at exit 42, so kind of, you know. But well, I do enjoy it.
We appreciate you listening. Thanks so much,
Michael. We'll see you at the Omaha. We'll see you at the Omaha meetup here.
Jim, you got?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just hung up on him.
No, it's all
Jim,
right.
You got time for one more call? I know we're
it's Daniel.
Oh, it's okay. Good. All right. Mr. Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity Podcast. Welcome to the show, buddy.
I can't believe I'm calling in through Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, you know what? I'll give them credit. We haven't dropped a call yet, which is why we're kind of kicking the tires on this. So.
Well, I wanted to give a little bit of input on the lav mics.
Yeah. Yes.
The TRRS, where you see the 3 black stripes, that can be adapted for other devices, and there are plenty of adapters out there. Like Rode makes an adapter, and it can work on anything like that. If you're seeing the 3 black stripes, it's designed to plug into either Mac computer sometimes or a mobile device, but that can be adapted for other things, like a recorder or maybe a mixer, depending on the lav.
Yeah, it always gets fun when you start busting out the, you know, basically the translators. You know, this let's convert this to a 1/4 inch, and now it's an XLR into the RCA jack. It's like it gets kind of crazy. Do you have a lab that you use?
Yeah, right now I'm using the Giant Squid Audio Labs lavalier, which has been a really good mic. It's about $52, $46 or $52, depending on how you customize it. But there's this YouTube channel. It's Curtis Judd. That's Judd. And he's done a lot of great reviews on lavalier microphones. And he was the one that I learned about the Giant Squid from. And he's also compared the Smart Lav Plus and all of that. But he's also the one where I learned about the Mic J 044 that uses a Sennheiser adapter, but it can plug into just about any kind of recorder, and you can adapt it to record into an iPhone as well. But that device is only $30, and it sounds better, noticeably better, than the Giant Squid Lav.
Really? Okay. Because I know the Giant Squid is made by like some guy in Michigan who lives in his basement, and you know they're all handmade kind of thing. And I know I've used them since.
Well, he does have a factory now.
Oh, does he? Well, that's cool.
He has a factory, yeah. And so his production is a lot faster. Actually, I just recently did a sort of cross-grade with him because I didn't like the clips on the old microphones he was making.
Yeah.
And he changed clip styles. So I just did a cross-grade. And I had the microphone in about a week. So his process is a lot faster now. It's the same price.
Nice. Yeah, I remember, I think it was at the very first like Podcast Expo. Somebody walked in with a little iRiver and recorded, and I'm like, man, this sounds awesome. And it was Giant Squid Audio. And it's like, and his website looks like it's from like 1986. So don't let that fool you. The guy does make some.
They didn't have the internet in '86, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, 92.
that still might be a little early.
Awesome. Well, while you're here, Daniel, feel free to plug your SEO class that I'm thinking of coming to.
Yeah, well, it's a digital product that will be launching on January 6th. I'm taking pre-orders right now while it's on a pre-order discount for about 25% off. And it's SEO for podcasters. You can check it out at theaudacitypodcast.com/SEO, which is search engine optimization. And so I go through not just how to optimize your website, but how to optimize your podcast feed so it is more searchable in iTunes, how to properly use certain tags, what the best plugin is for SEO, how to use PowerPress's new features for search engine optimization for your podcast, how to leverage other platforms to help your podcast dominate the front page of Google searches and other searches. So it's looking like it's on track to be about 3 to 4 hours of training content.
Wow.
And that's going to be over at theaudacitypodcast.com/SEO, launching at full retail price on January 6th, but you can jump in on the pre-order for only $75.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, thanks for popping in and giving your insights on the microphone. That's very good to know. I'll have to look those up. I've never heard of the Sennheiser, so I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, the Mic J044, $30.
Yeah.
I think that's probably my new recommendation.
Cool. Awesome, buddy. Well, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right,
Good talking to you, Daniel.
All right. And with that, we'll start the fun-filled music. It still sounds weird. I need to see what's going on with that clip. It's weird sounding. It's like
sounds good to me.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, fun-filled day today. The one thing I didn't do today, no, I did actually. When I got here, my computer rebooted because Windows had installed some updates. Because usually I reboot to start Saturday. So I will just quit playing with Chrome on Saturday morning. I might try Internet Explorer next week.
Yeah, give it a try. Maybe we both go on IE and give it a shot.
See if it works. Or I've actually thought of putting this on the Mac and then doing all the streaming on the PC. Because it's just a little Mac Mini. I'll have to see how much memory's in that thing.
Yeah, I think you want to do as much streaming with as much memory and CPU as you can get.
Whichever machine has the most memory. That's the other thing. I'm going to look and see how much I can plug in this bad boy.
We're going to use Blog Talk Radio for the foreseeable future to keep testing it out?
I would think at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the one hand, it's saving me money. I'm not, getting charged. I'm still paying for the $6 a month for the phone line. I'm going to keep that in case I ever want to go back. But before it was whatever, $4 or $5 an episode, something like that. So
yeah.
It's like,
and remember, our purpose is to test things here. That's why we do this. This is people. It's funny. People get all concerned sometimes. Not in this case, but
Right.
And it's like, hey, look, this is what we do this for. This is why we do this Saturday mornings.
That's why you tune in to see what kind of train wreck it is.
It is kind of fun, yeah.
Awesome. Well, you can find Jim over at theaverageguy.tv. Jim, thanks so much for being here.
It's always great to be here.
You can find me at schoolofpodcasting.com, and we'll see you every Saturday at askthepodcastcoach.com/live. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Yay. And now I can end the show on Blog Talk Radio.
Goodbye.
That'll probably say something. Are you sure you want to end the episode? Yes, I'm sure I want to end the episode.
Mixler does that all the time, too.
Blog Talk Radio.
Are you sure?
Goodbye.
That has saved my bacon a couple times. Where?
No, we accidentally click on it. And you're
yeah.
Like,
wait, don't. Well, I was doing a call in Berlin on early on Tuesday morning, so it was noon their time, so about 5 a.m. here, and so it was going great, and they had actually practiced this, and they had bought the Q2Us over there, so they'd gotten a couple of those, and they'd practiced, and we'd done some stuff. Those first couple podcasts that you do, they're always tough, right? And so these are people who've never done this before, and they're very stiff and very formal, and they did a great job for the first time. But I'm chatting with one of the producer on that end. I'm chatting with her behind the scenes via email. And so I'm controlling the camera angles, and then I go to type a message back to her, and I didn't click back in the email in the email window, which it meant it was still in Google Hangouts, and I started typing, and whatever key combination I hit, I magically permanently muted her. We could not get her unmuted, right? So the gal who was talking, muted. And it's almost like I booted her. We talked about that, if you ban somebody from the Hangout. So fortunately, she was in her last question, and I was able to fix it. But behind the scenes, I'm like, crap. Except I wasn't that nice. crap, because I'm muted. They can't even see me. And I just thought, oh man, this was going so well. And then which is one of those things. It's like, with your broadcast PC, once you get the broadcast going, you should do nothing else on it ever until you're done, right? That's probably a lesson I learned on Tuesday. It's like, get a dedicated broadcast server, start things, let it go, don't mess with it. Don't surf things on it, don't run stuff on it, because it's just, for me, because, I'm running off a Core i7 here. I got plenty of juice. I mean, I got a Core i7 with 16 gig of RAM that I'm running this thing off of. I got plenty of juice, but my user error, totally hosed me at that point. So I felt so bad. She dropped off, and what was cool, Mandy, the gal who was hosting the whole thing. This is all in German, by the way, so I don't understand a lick. I mean, a little bit, but I don't understand a lick of what they're talking about. So Mandy just looks and smiles, doesn't flinch, and then just keeps going. And I was like, that's pro. That girl is a pro right there. So.
Well, the cool thing is it's asking me. When you end the show on Blog Talk Radio, it gives you a link to promote it via Twitter. It's like, we're processing this, but here's your link, and then it says, do you want to schedule next week's show? I'm like, that's kind of cool. But yeah, as I close yet another browser, I have 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, the 8. I have just nothing but Chrome in my processes.
Yeah. Well, I've got a separate broadcast server. I have a Core i3 530, which is a first gen Core i3, so not the oldest stuff, but good enough to do what we do. And I actually, I move for when I'm broadcasting for my podcast. That's the actual broadcast PC, and I do nothing else on it when I'm doing it. When I was doing it for Gallup, I was doing it at home, but I didn't run it like I run my normal podcast. I just signed in as the broadcast server or the broadcast account. We actually separate our YouTube accounts. So I have a recording account on YouTube, and then I have a production account on YouTube. So that, because it can get messy. If you're recording to the same account that you're publishing, it just gets messy in the catalog, right? You just got all these videos all over the place, and so you don't have to do this, but we chose to do it that way. And so normally I would bring up that recording account on a completely separate box. We do that same thing. Core i5 at work. I have a broadcast server. It's a Core i5. That's its one job. I give it one job to do, just one. That's broadcast smoothly, and we bumped up the memory as much as we can.
Yeah, my computer just is in drastic need of being rebooted, or just go through and kill those Chrome things, because I'm just trying to go to my control panel now and see if I can see how much memory. I don't think you can from the control panel. You can see how much memory you have, but it doesn't tell you, like, you can dump another 8. I think I'd have to go into the specs of the PC. And you still did not broadcast into Blog Talk Radio using their. I can't.
Yeah.
Not if I'm going to use. I would have to have. Let's see. How can I do that? Because the problem is when I dial in via the phone, as the host, it says, okay, the host is connected, so it turns off that ability. And if I go in there, then I'm not sure. I would hear the caller on that machine. So the problem is, you're like, okay, great, just send another mix minus to that machine. Well, that machine it would be tricky. I thought about that. I could put in like another USB into the Mac Mini, and then send a second mix minus the phone to that one, because otherwise the phone caller is going to be sounding like they're drunk because they're going to hear themselves. because I got two machines, and I'm like, the Mac right now just streams us coming out of the mixer, and you get a mix minus of you. So
how did you dial into how did you connect to Blog Talk Radio? What was the connection? Because we're coming in on Google Hangouts, right? So you connect the Google Hangouts sound to it, so you can unify it that way. Yeah.
Right. So it's not. I know they said in the future they're going to have it set up so you can have multiple people. Yeah. Because I could just have you. We would somehow, have. I'm not sure how we would do that. It's really. Yeah. If you were able to dial in, then what we would do is we would probably just use Blog Talk Radio and put their player on our website, and that would solve it.
So what's their connection when you connect on this new way to them? What are their accepted connection types? How do you?
It just asks, where's your microphone? And you say, in my case, I said it's this USB thing.
Got it.
Which was cool.
Got it.
But that USB has the live mix, so.
Right. So today, when you sent the audio in, you're sending it through a phone, like through the phone call, right? You're dialing in and sending it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the way we always get we always have the phone through Magic Jack. Yeah. The only thing is we used to call in studio. Now we call into Blog Talk Radio. And so if I was doing a solo show, I'd have to think about that.
Well, so think about this. This is the way I do it, right? So it's listening on a port. And bring up, on your Mac, bring up the Hangout that has you and me in it, right? So it's unified sound at that point. So coming out of the speakers is you and me. And then take a physical audio jumper and just come out of the speakers and go back into the microphone. And then on Blog Talk Radio's side, you capture that microphone, right? That's getting the full audio sound that we're getting in the Hangout. If we were on Skype, it would be even better. But that would be a way, because then you're getting the crisp, clear sound and not having to go through a phone line to get it done. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if I think I can do that. If I take the main output of us, which is going to Spreaker and Mixer, send that to Blog Talk Radio, take the phone from that, plug it into the mixer where the phone is here, send that to you so you can hear it, because you're not in on Blog Talk Radio.
Right.
They're hearing me, they're hearing you, we're hearing them. That would work. I would just have to take the output. I think that would work.
Give it a try. We can test it. Let's test it this week if you get some time.
Yeah.
Ping me and we can give it a.
The cool thing is the 16th is my last day of work. That's awesome. I'm so looking forward to not working for 2 weeks.
Oh, taking 2 weeks off for Christmas?
Yeah.
Nice.
They're just like, hey, you have a lot of vacation you haven't used. I'm like, really? I'm like, oh, okay. Well, just whatever's, just start stacking it up. So it's cool. I have like a week. And so with, New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve and the day after and the day before, it's like, well, that basically I got 2 weeks of vacation using 1 week of vacation. So, which is cool. There's a lot of things I want to finish up and.
Yeah, they give you some time to get some stuff done. My schedule will slow down a little bit too, although everybody's trying to jam everything in before Christmas week.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I looked at the schedule. Saturday is the 20th, and then it's after, what is it, 27th? So, like, in theory, we don't have any, conflicts. It's not like it's on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve or New Year's Day.
No, it goes right on through with the weekends. So
it'll be interesting to see, because the next 2 weeks, well, especially next weekend, that's the day when everybody goes, oh, holy crap, I gotta buy Aunt Martha something, and the malls explode.
Oh yeah.
All the guys go to the mall the weekend before.
And you don't want to be there with the guys. That's
nothing left.
That's never a good. That's never a good deal.
Yeah.
Well, work is that way too, in the sense that when you get back, I think this year really things kick back off again January 5th. That's pretty much when, everybody gets back to work from vacations and stuff. And that's always the worst day of the year because everybody all of a sudden realizes, they're just coming back off vacations and, oh crap, we got to get some stuff done. It's the first of the year. All the money's been reallocated, and I just always dreaded that day and the day after Labor Day weekend. So there would always be, because that kind of traditionally ends the summer vacations season here in the United States anyways. And I would get back, I remember coming back into work that Monday, and it would just feel different. And everybody would be, you got that holiday out of the way, summer's over, and it was like, oh crap, we got to get some stuff done before the end of the year. Type deal. And so it was this crunch of, September was this crunch. School would be starting. Of course, here in Nebraska, school starts early, so like in mid-August. But I know in a lot of places in the country it starts September.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I always hated those days. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Well, good stuff. It's always fun to kick this thing around, try some stuff out. The middle, we got a little rough in the middle here. I don't know what was going on with the.
Well, my memory thing was just going crazy, so I will try a different browser next week just for giggles, because it just doesn't give me my memory back. And all these plugins and stuff that are, I don't have a ton of them, but I have like Evernote, LastPass. I forget what else I have tied into Chrome.
That shouldn't be. I mean, just normal usage should not cause that, unless you're running short on RAM or the CPU is having a hard time keeping up.
I'm gonna definitely check and see how much RAM I can throw into this. That'll be the worst.
How much is in there now? Do you know?
8 gigs. So
that should be plenty.
Yeah, you would
running Windows 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be plenty.
And that's why I said when I looked at it, it wasn't like I was, pegging the meter or anything like that. I'm like, it's crazy. So I don't know.
I got something I want to chat with you about if you got 5 extra minutes, but I need to do it behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, we'll say goodbye to everybody. And we will
goodbye, everybody.